Hi, my name is Fernando. I'm from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, and this is the work a spatial relation ontology for deep water depositional system description in geology. So we'll talk about the motivation and objectives of this work. We'll talk about the spatial relations that we reviewed here. We'll talk about the geological spatial relations ontology, the Karoo Basin case study, and then we will discuss and conclude this work. Motivation and objectives. So geologists need to specify relations between geological entities in order to interpret the processes that generated the rock bodies. As a short example, when a sedimentary layer is placed above an adjacent layer, the geologist infers that the former is younger than the latter. So it would be helpful to have a standard terminology and criteria to instantiate qualitative spatial relations on geological entities. The objectives here are to review conceptual models that specify spatial relations in the literature, to build a spatial relations ontology for geological entities. The geological entities are already defined in the GeoCore ontology, and finally to run a case study in which we describe the geological entity's spatial distribution. The spatial relations. We have this work from Cohen Rance. We actually did a broader review so one can see the paper for details. Here we selected the RCC8 merotopological relation set. This theory states that if the intersection of these spaces occupied by two spatial entities is not empty, so both entities are connected. And a spatial entity X is a merotopological part of a spatial entity Y, if whatever entity connected to X is also connected to Y. The spatial relations here are disconnected from, externally connected with, identical to, partially overlaps, tangential proper part of, non-tangential proper part of, tangentially contains as a proper part, and non-tangentially contains as a proper part. The illustrations are here. And we have also the directional relation set that specifies the orientation of a primary spatial entity with respect to a second spatial entity and a frame of reference. An example of frame of reference is the cardinal reference system, and we have relations like left of, right of, above and below. The merotopological and the directional relations are sufficient to support the geological descriptions. The geological spatial relations ontology. We use the BFO and the GeoCore ontologies to support our general descriptions in geology. The BFO is a foundational ontology for scientific domains, and the GeoCore is a core ontology that specifies a general set of concepts in geology, like geological object, earth material, geological boundary, and others. We have the RCC8 relations above and the directional relations below. We adapted the terminology to our context. We define some logical axioms too, like subrelations. For example, if X is spatially disconnected from Y, then Y is spatially discrete from, then X is spatially discrete from Y. We have some BFO alignment too, like if X is a proper spatial part of Y, then X is located in Y in the BFO sense. And we have inverse relations like below and above. If X is below Y, Y is above X. All these relations connect particulars that instantiate the type-independent continuant from BFO. We have made this modern decision because this type covers all the types of geological entity that we intend to relate. For example, geological entities like rock bodies, sites like channels and holes, geological boundaries, and others. This decision also makes the ontology generic and possibly useful for other domains. the Karoo Basin case study. We have this work from Hodgson that describes deposits located in South Africa and created by deep water processes. We have an illustration here of some bodies. Uh, each of these bodies is a geological object in the geocore perspective. We have a channel complex in yellow, an external levee. This channel complex is divided in three channel elements. So these elements and complexes and the levee are each of them is a box, and each relation between them is an arrow. The continuous arrows are asserted relations, and the dashed arrows are inferred relations. Some examples of relations are here, like the external levee is externally connected with and at the left of the channel complex. The channel 1 is externally connected with and below the channel 2, and the channel 1 is also spatially disconnected from and below the channel 3. The discussion and conclusion. So this model allows the representation of the geological body's spatial distribution. It features the benefits that ontologies offer, like reasoning, determination of inconsistencies, execution of semantic queries like Sparkle, and etc. We have a limitation that we did not formalize the frame of reference and assumed the observer's relative location for simplicity reasons. So instances that assume distinct relative locations cannot be integrated. This limitation can be better worked in the future, possibly by adopting a coordinate reference system such as OGC does. This work is inserted in a larger project that proposes a domain ontology for the systematic description of deep water deposits. The integration of these ontologies will support more specific reasoning, such as determining the relative ages of distinct bodies. And these ontologies will also support a 3D visualization system. So thank you, and questions can be sent to this email.